Hello everyone, welcome to the proper classes of the Ras Indica IAS Academy. Desh Badala, Padhai Badalo. I hope all of you are doing good and great, feeling healthy and fine. So once again, welcome to our GS3 topic. And GS3 topic, one of the most important and one of the main topic of the GS3 is your government budgeting, how the government gets the money, how the government spends the money, what happens when the government don't have the money or very less money. Government always have the money, right? So what happens when the government is not having that much of money which government wanted to spend, like, so we all will be discussing all these things over here. So Indian economy, government budgeting, that is the next topic that we are going to study today. So let's start. So as you all know over here, we are doing syllabus by syllabus preparation of this. So we are into this topic of government budgeting, government budgeting of general studies paper 3, right? So what is the meaning of government budgeting? Budgeting means, as a word suggests, that is called budget. You make your own house budget. Okay, you make your house budget, right? What to buy, when to buy, how much to buy, what time we have to buy, how much it is going to require. Similarly, government also makes their own plans. Government make their plans. Government manage their resources. Government allocate the resources and financial resources for a specific period of time. Every year, that specific period is a financial year. Okay, every year that specific period is called as financial year, and that goes from 1st April to 31st March. Okay, so that we call it as fiscal year. That we call it as fiscal year. So the main objective of government budget, what exactly, what are the main objectives? So first of all, government has lot of money with, okay, so they wanted to allocate these resources to, like, they wanted to allocate the funds at various places like government departments, government agencies, government like there are a lot of government offices are there, there are a lot of schemes are running and everything are running, right? So government allocate these funds because government has to do some, has some policy goals and some priorities that has to be solved. So government allocate these resources. Then government even forecast the revenue for the next year, like how much they are expecting. Okay, how much they are expecting. So budget estimate they do. After 1 year they do revised estimate, then we get the actuals after that. Okay, so government also do revenue forecast, revenue, that what amount of money that government is going to get in that year. Okay, from the taxes, from the fees and various other sources, whatever the sources government are having, how much, this forecasting, right? Then expenditure planning. Now government also make a plan in which how they are doing, how they are going to do that expenditure about the money. Okay, right? Government has a lot of places government has to spend in defense, government has to give money in salaries, government has to pay for public service, infrastructure, social program, education, healthcare, various areas are there. Okay, then fiscal discipline. Fiscal discipline means that it is not like that you spend whatever you want. Okay, just simply, it is not like that you spend whatever you want and you don't have the resources and you are spending unnecessarily, and you don't have control on your hands. Okay, so government has to maintain this fiscal discipline. That means government has to refrain from any unnecessary expenditure, right? Then government also prioritize the policy, like where the priorities of the government are lying, where more resources are to be allocated, where the resources has to be removed, and where the budget has to that they have to provide more and more budget, where they have to provide less and less budget. Similarly, like if we go by the budget estimate, like we are seeing that road infrastructure, road and transport are getting a lot of budget money from the government. Railways is getting a lot of money from the government. Defense sector is getting a lot of money. Home affairs ministry is getting a lot of money, right? So there are policy prioritization are also there. Then transparency and accountability, like every year the budget has to be presented in the parliament, so that means you have to make that budget to pass. You make plan, you decide on that plan, you find out like what is the outcome of your previous budget. That happens in the economic survey, right? And whatever the money is spent, where the money is spent, how much the money is spent, how much money is saved, this is all being accountable. Government officials are made accountable for any kind of financial management or any kind of financial mismanagement that is happening. Okay, so with the help of this fiscal tools, the government resources, the money and everything, whatever the resources the government is having, we help in stabilizing our economy. Okay, sometimes we have less money, so we have to borrow the money from places. Sometimes we have more money, so we save that surplus money. Okay, so fiscal policy of the government is utilized to stabilize the economy. Government take necessary steps in order to stabilize the economy. Fiscal policy is one of it, right? Now what are the steps that are involved in government budgeting? So what are the steps that are involved? So for in the starting, you have to prepare that. Okay, there are government agencies, there are government departments. They start developing this process, budget process. Every ministry, every government departments provide their budget, like how much budget they are needing for the next year. That is called preparation. Why they need, what is the objective of that money. Okay, every government department, every ministry prepare their own budget, and after that it is compiled by the finance ministry. Okay, then you go to the parliament to take legislative approval. That means the finance minister stand there and read the budget statement. Okay, the parliament you go. Okay, and there is a voting that will happen on the budget, right? That voting will happen on the budget, right? Once the voting has been done, when the budget has been passed to the pass, then after that implementation will happen. Okay, budget authorize the government. Now once the budget is being passed, it authorizes the government to take out the money and allocate the fund to the respective purposes. After the money has been spent, money is also being monitored and controlled. There are a lot of government agency dashboard and various other government monitoring agencies are there, which sees whether the proper budget money is utilized and for the intended use, whether we have used or not. And at the last, evaluation will happen. You can see that economic survey comes every like before the budget, before one day of the budget, the economic survey is released, right? So in that you can get some evaluation, like whether what objective has been met, what is still lying, how effectively the work is going on, what we have achieved, what is the future progress are going on. Okay, so these are the steps in government budgeting. We will be discussing more elaborately in the coming slides. Now there are some issues with government budgeting. Right now we are finding out like what are the issues with government budgeting, right? So there are a lot of challenges. There are a lot of challenges and issues are there. First of all is fiscal deficit is the most important issue, because every time it is not like that government is having a properly balanced budget. No, government always in India, normally in India we have a deficit budget. Deficit means we wanted to do more expenditure, but our revenue source are little bit lesser than that. Okay, so fiscal deficit happens when government expenditure exceeds its revenue. That means if your revenue is rupees 1000 crore and your expenditure is 1500 crore, that means there is a deficit of 500 crore. There is a deficit of 5. So this is called fiscal deficit. So that means our expenditures are more than our revenue. That is called fiscal deficit. Okay, so because of that we need more borrowings, we have to do a lot of borrowings. Because of that, when money we borrow it, because it led to the inflation, price rise will happen. And it also crowd out private investment, because if there's a lot of inflation in the economy, if there is a lot of inflation in the economy, then saving rate saving rate and interest rate goes down. Even if somebody is giving you 8% interest rate in FD, but your inflation rate for per year is 6%, effectively you are getting only 2%. That is some situation that I'm just trying to make you understand, like exactly you are getting only 2% on your investment. Okay, so that is why RBI try to control all these inflation rate. RBI say that optimum is 4%, maximum it can go to 6%, and below it should reach up to 2%. So we have to maintain these thresholds for inflation if we really wanted our economy to grow. Otherwise, if the inflation rate goes more than 6%, then there will be loss of money, there will be loss of saving, and there will be erosion of money. There will be erosion of money that will happen, right? Then other issues is revenue shortfall. We are doing all the process to increase the tax collection. We are also increasing the and we are also broadening the tax base, but still revenue generation is a challenge, because lot of tax evasions are happening. Even whatever the total administrative setup that we have put in for collection of the taxes is also not sufficient enough. And one more important, we have discussed that around 60 to 70% of our economy is informal in nature. It is informal in nature. So because of that, there is a huge revenue shortfall that happens, because since these companies are not registered, and because of that there is a loss of taxes that happens towards the government. Okay, then what is the issue with the government budgeting? Subsidy burden. Up to it is said that I've read somewhere that up to 5% of the GDP we are providing as subsidy only, subsidies money. And everywhere, whether you go for food subsidy, or you go for fertilizer subsidy, or you go for gas subsidy, you go for education subsidy, you can go for whatever you think. There are a lot of things are going on in our country. A lot of subsidies are there: food, fuel, fertilizer to the vulnerable section. So because of that, resources get strained. Government has to spend a lot of money under that. Somebody sometimes it is said that, okay, the fuel company has reduced the rate of fuel by rupees 2 per liter. Yesterday only it has happened. Okay, yesterday it has happened. So that means that the reduction of this 2 rupees, it is for the general consumer, but somebody has to pay, na? Somebody has to pay this money. So it goes from the government pocket. It goes from government pocket because government has to provide this money to the oil marketing companies, OMC company. Okay, so it is not like that something coming free. No, something is not coming free. Somebody is paying the price for it, right? If you go like in Russian shops, correct, you go like you get rupees 1 per kg of wheat, then rupees 2 per kg of rice. But do you know what is the market value? It is above 20 rupees kg wheat, or 20 rupees, 30 rupees kg per rice. So what is the who is bearing that loss? Who is bearing that loss? It is government. Government is buying at 20 rupees kg and giving you at 1 rupees kg. So 19 rupees loss government is bearing in the form of subsidy that is to be given. So somebody is paying for that. If you are saying that your 300 unit of electricity, 300 unit of electricity is free, you are not paying, but somebody has to pay to this electricity company, right? Government will be paying for this free electricity to the electric company, distribution company, discoms, right? So nothing comes free, somebody has to pay for it, right? Then infrastructure investment is not keeping up pace with it. So we need government to invest a lot of money under this, because of certain budgetary constraint, like you cannot invest that much in that sector, this sector. Okay, so we need more and more funds for infrastructure. Right now government is monetizing the asset. So government is selling the old PSUs, dysfunctional PSUs, and raising the money and utilizing in some productive sector. Okay, we call it as disinvestment also. Then public sector enterprises, they are working at suboptimal efficiency, so they are again burdening the government resources. Public sector banks, Punjab National Bank. Nirav Modi took away how much crore? Rupees 10,000 crore loss he has done to the Punjab National Bank. So because of that, capital loss has happened to Punjab National Bank. So since it is a public sector bank, government has to infuse money. Government has to infuse money under this. So I hope you got it, like how government keeps on supporting these public sector enterprises because they cannot be allowed to fall. Then expenditure management. There is a huge challenge, like whether the expenditure is happening efficiently or not. Whether the expenditure is happening efficiently or not. Whether maximum impact has been achieved or not. Is there any kind of leakages? Is there any kind of wasteful expenses or inefficiency? Leakage and wasteful expenses have been somehow dealt using the Jam Trinity model and direct benefit transfer. Jandan Aadhaar Mobile and direct benefit transfer, we are trying to bridge the leakages and wastages. FASTag for your cars, right? Earlier, there was a very high amount of black marketing goes on toll plazas. But once the FASTag came into being, the money is directly going to the government, directly going to the government. It is directly getting credited to the government, right? Then there is another issue between the central government and the state government. Always fight happens between them, like how much resources state government will be getting, how much central resources will be getting. So there is a lot of ambiguities in this fiscal relationship. Finance commission in our country, finance commission under article 280. This decides how much financial resource will be shared with the state government by the central government. Okay, so this finance commission sets every 5 year. Earlier there was a chairman who was NK Singh, and I think recently I got a news regarding that. So I got a news that recently the 16th finance commission was set up on 31st December 2023, and Arvind Panagria Panagaria has been made the chairman of that commission. Earlier, he was the vice chairman of Niti Ayog. Earlier, he was the vice chairman of Niti Ayog. Now, for the 16th Finance Commission, that has been constituted on 31st December 2023. Arvind Panagria has been made the chairman of that, who will be discussing the resource distribution between the state government and central government for the coming 5 years, 6 years. Right now, budget transparency and accountability is one another aspect, like budget formulation, budget execution, reporting. Okay, we have to make sure that public trust remains there. Public always wanted to see how their resources are being used because taxes are raised from the public, right? So public wanted to know how their resources are being used, whether they are being effectively used or not, whether these resources are being properly managed or not. We know that our Indian economy is susceptible to both domestic and global economic uncertainties because for certain products like oil products and all these things, we are heavily dependent on the outside world. And sometimes now chips, semiconductor chips are there in which, and rare earth metals, we are heavily dependent on the outside world. And we are able to see that when 2020 COVID-19 pandemic came into being, there was a huge issue with the oil market, semiconductor market, and rare earth metal market. Okay, so we are Indian economy is highly susceptible to the global commodity prices, exchange rates, and geopolitical tension. Israel-Hamas war and Russia-Ukraine war that is going on. Because of that, because of all these uncertainties, there is a sudden ups and down that has happened in our revenue and expenditure projection. Inclusive growth, for that we have already taken a separate lecture. Is still remaining a challenge. Still huge amount of population is below poverty line, and most of them are multi-dimensional poor, right? So there are huge disparities in the incomes are there. Regional development are not taking, only certain sectors of the country are getting developed, and people are not even getting proper basic services like healthcare, education, and insurance, and various other things. So that is why we need to design the budget in such a way that it helps in achieving all these objectives properly. Then only we can call that budget process is a inclusive growth process and equitable development process it is. Now we are moving towards the meaning of fiscal policy, because people always say what is the meaning of fiscal. When we say that fiscal is not a word English and like that. Okay, so fiscal policy is a government policy regarding taxation and expenditure. Fiscal policy, and sometimes people get confused between the fiscal policies and monetary policy. Fiscal policy deals with government earning and expenditure, and monetary policy deals with the central bank and rate of interest rate of interest, right? So you should know the difference between fiscal policy and monetary policy. फिजिकल पॉलिसी गवर्नमेंट से रिलेटेड होता है, जिसमें गवर्नमेंट अपने टैक्सेशन एक्सपेंडिचर्स को डील करते हैं. मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी डील्स विथ द central bank governor, where repo rates, reverse repo rates, then we have our cash reserve ratio, statutory liquidity ratios keeps on deal with that. Okay, so fiscal is derived from a Greek word fisk, that means a basket. Earlier it was used by like royal sense earlier, like around 100 200 300 years back, in which taxes paid either in kind or in cash, royal household. Okay, so that is why from where the world has taken this word, it is related to government expenditure and earning, right? Now fiscal policy is a government revenue collection, like taxes, non-taxes, disinvestment, and all these things are there, right? So fiscal policy helps in controlling the flow of taxes revenue, like where the revenue will go, where it will be utilized, whether it is surplus, whether it is deficit, all these things that we are going to discuss now. Now, there are types of fiscal policy that government used to follow. One is neutral fiscal policy. Neutral fiscal policy means like you are earning 10,000, 1,000 crore, and you are spending 10,000 crore. Okay, you are spending 10,000 crore. Balance budget. Neutral fiscal policy means balanced budget. Government spending is equal to tax revenue. You got 1,000 crore in taxes, you spend 10,000 crore. 1,000 crore in taxes, you spend 1,000 crore in taxes. Right? So, government spending is equal to taxation. Right? Government is like that means there is government, whatever the government spending is there, it is totally funded by the tax on tax revenue. Okay, so neutral, you don't have any liability on yourself. Okay, neither you are in surplus, neither you are in deficit, you are neutral. Then we have a contractionary fiscal policy. That means we are contracting our fiscal policy. That means we are having 1,000 crore, but we are only spending 800 crore. Contraction, that means we are having good resources, but we are spending less. We are cutting up the demand. Contractionary fiscal policy is only utilized by the government when you have high inflation. High inflation. In order to beat the inflation, government reduces the spending in the market. Because of the reduction in spending, the demand goes down and inflation goes right. And then we have a expansionary fiscal policy. This expansionary fiscal policy recently in 2020, government of India has followed during the COVID-19 pandemic. 20 lakh crore package government has given to boost the industry. To boost industry. 20 lakh crore package government has given to boost an industry, that is called fiscal policy expansionary. That means you are not having resources, you have borrowed the money and you have invested so to give stimulus to the market, to speed up the growth rate. Okay, taxes were cut so that people should spend more. Government also spent more because government wanted to spur the economic growth. Government wanted to decrease the unemployment rate. So based on the type of the economy that you are having, you keep on changing your type of fiscal policies. So like that, expansionary mean government spendings are very high, government taxes are low. That means earlier government is taxing 30%. Government said that no, now you will get only 20% tax. Okay, that means extra 10% you are having, so you start spending more. So expansionary fiscal policy. Contractionary fiscal policy means government will ask you to spend less. So how you will spend less when government increases, like okay, earlier 20% income tax, now government says okay, now you have a 35% income tax. So since the money in your hand goes down, so you will spend less and inflation will come down, and that is called contractionary fiscal policy, right? Now, what are the components of earning? Like from where the government earns the money? Obviously, taxes are the main source of earning of the government. Tax बहुत important source है. चाहे taxes can be your direct taxes like your income tax, and indirect taxes is like your GST. Okay, like that. There are a lot of other taxes. Then borrowing. Government used to borrow from banks. Government used to borrow from RBI, multilateral institutions. Okay. Sometimes government gets the money from the sale and lease of assets. So if you have a PSU, government has sell that PSU and you get the money out of it as a disinvestment. Disinvestment. Government is having shares in the PSUs. Okay, you know LIC, government is controlling 90% of the LIC. So LIC is listed in the stock market. So whenever LIC generates any profit, government gets the profit. Whenever uh, Steel Authority of India raises any profit, government gets the profit because government has shares in all these companies. That is why they are called as public sector undertaking. Like Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited, Indian Oil Corporation Limited, all these places government is having shares. These are called public sector undertakings, right? Gas Authority of India Limited, government gets the money from them in the form of profit, in the form of dividends, and all these things. Then government spendings, where government normally spends the money. First of all, the main source is staff salaries. You know, a lot of the lakhs of government employees are there. They get the salaries. Loan payment. Government, last we have discussed here, government has done the borrowing. For that borrowing, government has to pay interest. Last year budget, 10 lakh crore rupees interest government has to pay to the outside world. Then government used to spend on a lot of subsidies, welfare programs, schemes, and sometimes wasteful expenses like full page government advertisement in order to generate public opinion for them. Right now we have an election time that is going on. If you take any newspaper, if you take any magazine, you take anything holding, you can see big banners of the government. We have done that, we have done this, all these things. So again, the wasteful expenses are there. Components, these are the big components where government used to spend their money, right? Now we are coming into the process of budget making. What is the meaning of budget? How the budget is made, how it is passed, and how it is implemented, right? So the budget, we call it as union budget. This word this word is not mentioned. It's not mentioned in constitution. It is not mentioned in constitution. The word that is mentioned in the constitution is annual financial statement, AFS. Under Article 112 of the Indian Constitution, annual financial statement has to be laid in front of the parliament every year. Okay, so can you see, this is a digital budget that government has started. Earlier they used to carry briefcase. Now they have started carrying digital budget. I think they used to carry the tablet, right? Under Article 112, every year they have to lay this cost to be paid. 112 article annual financial statement says that the president shall respect to every financial year cost to be laid before house of the parliament regarding the receipt and expenditure of government of India for that year. That is called as annual financial statement. That is called as annual financial statement. In that, government will tell where the revenues will be generated, where the expenditures will be done, how the expenditures will be met, and everything. Okay, so here the sum required to meet the expenditure, how much money you need, what is required, how much expenditure is charged. I will be telling about this word. Please wait for it. I will be telling about what is the meaning of this charged upon consolidated fund. We have three accounts: public account, consolidated, consolidated fund of India, and contingency, contingency fund of India. So this consolidated fund of India is directly under the parliamentary control. Under parliamentary control. And from here only you have to take out the money to spend on whatever things you have to do. So that is why in order to take out the money from consolidated fund of India, you have to present a budget that is called annual financial statement. It is voted upon, and once it is passed, now you can extract the money from the consolidated fund of India. And this contingency fund is a emergency fund. It is called as emergency fund. That is under the control of president of India. Here certain 500 crore rupees are there under the President of India for emergency uses, right? Now, whatever the money that you needed, you have to extract from the Consolidated Fund of India only after voting is being done in the parliament. Okay, but there are certain things that cannot be voted, they are called charged. Charge means there are certain expenditure which are directly being charged on the Consolidated Fund of India. Charge means they cannot be voted, cannot be cannot be voted, and whatever the money that will be coming under charge has to be released, has to be released. That means allowances, salaries of the president, salary of the chairman and deputy chairman of the council of the state, speaker, government salaries, okay, all these things, salaries, allowances, and pension of the judges, judges of high court, judges of the supreme court, government officers, okay, these are all charged. They cannot be voted upon. That means you can increase it or you can decrease it, you cannot do it. They are directly charged. And other than that, for an other expenditure, you need to get approval from the parliament, right? Now, annual financial statement tells about the expenditure and estimated receipt. That means what you are doing to do expenditure in the coming financial year and what is your estimated receipt from where you are expecting that your money will be coming. Okay. And then only in the budget you have to tell in which program how much money you will be needed, and whether you are decreasing certain amount in certain program or whether you are increasing money in the certain program. All things you have to tell in that budget or annual financial statement, right? Now, this is how the whole process works. It is a totally of 6 to 7 month process of budget creation. It is not like that on certain day of 1st of February somebody come and started giving a speech. No, that speech will be only happen until unless all the data is there. So how the budget process happens? Okay, how the budget? First of all, the government will issue circulars to all the departments of the ministries. सारे मिनिस्ट्री को सर्कुलर जाएगा वेयर दे विल बी आस्किंग लाइक यू प्रिपेयर योर एस्टिमेट फॉर द कमिंग ईयर, you prepare your estimate for the coming year. That means if you are living in 2023 year, right now if we are in 2024, so they will be asking you, okay, you prepare for 2025. So I'll just give you one example. Now if the right now the year is going on 2024, so this budget process already started in 2023 for this 2024-2025, right? So around September, October, this circular used to go to all ministry and departments, right? Then after the circular read, they will said that okay, we need this much of money in that place, so that scrutinization of the revenue and expenditure will happen. Then good amount of consultation will be done among the ministry, among the department, among the finance ministry and the other departments. Okay, then estimate is sent to the finance ministry. Okay, now we are sending that to the finance. So till here, till here the whole process remains within the ministry and within the department. After department got all the like what revenue we want, how much, where we are doing expenditure, everything here, then they have sent that, they will send their report to the finance ministry. So every ministry and every department used to send their report to the finance ministry. Then finance ministry goes through all the recommendation and what they are asking, what all ministries are asking. Then finance minister hold pre-budget meeting with all the stakeholders, like from various departments, from various government offices, from various other ministries. Okay, like if home ministry is saying that we need this much of budget, then finance ministry will be discussing, the pre-budget meeting will happen, like what is your proposal, what is your demand, why you need this much of demand, and like that. And then final finance minister will take the call on demands. Along with that, there will be discussion that will happen with the prime minister, and after that, the budget will be finalized and it will be laid before the parliament on 1st of February every year. That earlier it used to happen on the last day of the February, but from 2017, the things have changed. 2017, the things have changed. Now, annual financial statement. Under the budget, the finance minister used to give three statements. Annual financial statement as under Article 112 of the government of the Constitution, finance bill under Article 265, and appropriation bill under 266. Now, what is all this? I will explain you one minute. So, annual financial statement is called as budget, where the finance minister will tell that from the next year we will be spending this much amount of money. They will give you last year budget. I remember 45 lakh crore budget they have prepared. Okay, then finance minister even say that this is the ministry and from here we will be getting the resources, right? And the next is finance bill that will be tabled under Article 265. It is telling about the taxes, how much taxes, whether increase rate or decrease rate, or whether they have introduced a new taxes or not, or like that. So that will be there under this taxation. So this is going to be your money bill, right? And then appropriation bill is the final bill. Appropriation bill is the final bill which is passed. If it is passed, it will lead to the spend of money from consolidated fund of India. That means appropriation bill has to be passed if you wanted to take out the money from the consolidated fund of India, right? So the budget is presented through appropriation bill and finance bill. Okay, once the budget is presented, then the finance minister will present appropriation bill, finance bill, and appropriation bill. And once all the when all the documents are being passed, then the budget is set to be approved. Okay, so appropriation bill. What is the meaning of appropriation bill? It is the money that allow government to withdraw fund from consolidated. अब जैसे हमने निकाला कि we need 10 we need 10 lakh crore rupees under this budget. So you need appropriation bill to take out this 10 lakh crore from consolidated fund of India. Okay, to meet the expenses for the whole financial year, right? Because this has been mandated. This has been mandated under Article 104 that government can withdraw money from the consolidated fund of India only after receiving approval of parliament. Without parliament approval, you cannot take out even a single penny from the consolidated fund of India. You need to get it passed from the parliament. So this is called checks and balances. This is called check and balances. It is not like that so you have a whole money under your control. No. Then finance bill. Finance bill under Article 265. Under Article 265, where you will be telling from where you are going to finance all these activity that you have given in your budget and annual financial statement. From where financing then your expenditure, like from where tax revenue, non-tax revenue, borrowing, from where you are going to finance. Under that finance bill, everything is written that we will be generating this much of money from here. Estimation will be given over there. Okay, so these are the two important bit, appropriation bill and finance bill. Then there is a small concept that is called vote on account. Now the budget is in parliament, line by line discussion happens, so it takes 2 to 3 months to get budget passed sometimes. But government needed new money from 1st April, right? Government needs money from 1st April, but still the budget is not being passed. It is still the discussion is going on in the parliament. So there is a concept of vote on account. It is only a expenditure side. So it is said that till the budget is passing, you can take out certain amount of money for your day-to-day functioning. So it is a special provision. That means I said, okay, I want 10 lakh crore rupees from the budget. But parliament is still discussing on this. Parliament is still discussing on that. Parliament said that, okay, we will be providing you with 50,000 crore rupees, 50,000 crore rupees for your day-to-day functioning till we pass the budget. Okay, so that is called vote on account. Government will give you like a pocket money. Okay, you call that vote on account like a pocket money to keep in your pocket until and unless your whole salary gets been given to you. Okay, this is just like a slang, I have utilized it in order to make you understand that till the budget is still in the discussion phase, government needs money to run. So government go for vote an account where certain amount of money is given to the government for day-to-day functioning till the budget gets passed. Or after the budget gets passed, it get accommodated into this, right? So vote an account is a special provision in which the government obtains parliamentary approval for funds sufficient to incur expenditure for a part of a year. So it is like an advance that has been given to you until the voting on demands for grant happen. Until the voting for demand of grant, budget में demands of grant होता है in the budget. In the budget you have demands of grant, like I want this much for this ministry, that much for that ministry, for that program. So till that got passed, you get a advance from the parliament. Okay. Now interim budget, very important, and this year government has passed interim budget on 2023. That means 2024 and 2025 budget is interim budget. It is interim budget. So whenever the central government goes for election, goes for election, that year is called as interim budget year. That means you cannot give full budget on that year because we don't know which government can come, right? So that happens in 2019 also. During that time also election was there. This is happening 2024. This year election is also there. That happens in 2014. Elections were there, right? So 2014, 2019, 2024, interim budget has been passed over there. Okay. Once the election is over and once the central government is formed, then central government will make full budget in the month of July or August, whatever it is. Okay. So interim budget will provide you with all the accounts, both expenditure and receipt, but you cannot say any big policy proposal. You cannot put any big thing in that proposal because it may go against the election code of conduct. Okay, so you have to present a normal budget in that. Okay, and you have to tell about expenditure, and this is similar to the normal budget, but you cannot say much big things in that budget. That is called interim budget. Now, parts of government budget, like how government gets the revenue and everything. So here, government provides two type of budget: revenue budget and capital budget. Revenue budget means from how the government is getting revenue. Government get revenues. Government spends the revenue. Under the capital budget, government gets the capital receipt. Government do the expenditure of the capital receipt, right? So revenue receipt are of two types: tax revenue and non-tax revenue. Tax revenue means direct taxes and non-revenue means indirect taxes, right? So we will be discussing each and everything separately. Now revenue budget. Revenue budget means revenue side of the government. Like revenue budget means from where government is going to do get the revenues, and from where the government where the government will do these expenditures of the revenue. Okay. So this type of expenditure, this is revenue expenditure, which is a purest form of government earning. That is the purest form of government earning. That is only the money of the government for day-to-day operations and other services. There are two types of revenue: tax revenues and non-tax revenues. Okay. So revenue expenditure does not create any asset nor reduce any liability. Okay, that you have to remember. Revenue expenditure does not create any asset because this is used for day-to-day activities, day-to-day operations, and it does not and nor reduce any liability because these are not part of your liability. These are your pure source of income. Pure source of income from tax and non-tax revenues. Okay, a tax revenue from where you will be getting like income tax, corporation tax, and various other taxes are there through which you can raise the money under that. Taxes are there: income tax, corporation tax, interest tax. All these taxes are direct taxes. These are directly taxes which goes into the consolidated fund of India. We have discussed, right? Indirect taxes, you can have your GST, which is the main tax, and now one of the main source of government earning uh, under the indirect taxes. You have sale tax, service tax, excise duty, GST. All these things are called indirect taxes. These are the two important revenue receipt. from where the government gets their revenue, tax receipt, tax revenue, and non-tax revenue. Then the most important receipt under non-tax head are interest receipt. Most important non-tax revenue, interest. Government has given money. Government has given money to various corporation, various PSUs, and various other things. So under that, government has given loan. So government receive interest payment on that. Government received money on received the interest on the loan that has been given. Like government has given some money to the state government. Okay, state government को loan दिया हुआ है government ने, तो state government will pay interest to the central government. If government has paid money to the railways or anybody, government is getting in the form of dividends in the PSUs. Government is getting profits of the PSUs. So they are all being part of the non-tax revenue of the government. Non-taxes revenue. Okay, you have to get difference between tax revenue and non-tax revenue. What is that? Then where the government used to do this expenditure, revenue expenditure, especially focusing on normal functioning and maintenance of the government, because these are the pure source and government has to be maintained on revenue expenditure only, because from the revenue only you have to pay salaries to the government employees. From the revenue only you have to pay interest. You have taken a lot of loan from outside world, multilateral loans you have taken, right? So government of India also has to pay interest. 10 lakh crore last year budget, 10 lakh crore money government has to pay from their revenue expenditure side. Government has to pay pension to the government employees from your revenues. Government has to provide subsidy, education, rural development program, health service program from the revenue that they have generated. From the revenue they have generated. Right now comes the next part, that is called capital budgeting. Now capital budget. Capital budget also have two sides, capital receipt and capital payment. Right? If you are raising certain money from the foreign governments, if you are raising the money from the public in the form of bonds or whatever it is, if you are raising the money from the RBI, they are major source of capital receipt of the government. Okay, here what you do normally, you do expenditure on equipments, you do expenditure on machinery, buildings, again education and healthcare, you can do that. Okay, so whenever the government total expenditure is more than total revenue, it is called fiscal deficit. So this we are going to do in the next step. Now, capital receipt, what exactly is the meaning of capital receipt? What we call it as capital receipt? Why we cannot call it as revenue receipt? Capital receipt leads to either asset, it leads to the receipt which result in asset reduction or increase in some liability, that is called capital receipt. That means you have one public sector undertaking, you have sold your public understanding, public sector public sector undertaking, your asset got reduced, your asset got reduced. Sometimes you take money from foreign government, it sets liability on you. So the way in which it helps in reduction in asset, how it so I will tell you why, how it help in reduction in asset. If you are selling your share or if you are disinvesting in PSU, your assets are getting reduced. You will get that capital risk. If you are selling your fixed asset or if you are recovering your loan that has been given to the state, okay, so your assets are getting reduced. Now, when we call it as capital receipts are creating liabilities, when you are borrowing some money from outside world, when you are borrowing money from RBI, when you are borrowing money from nation, from financial institution, it creates liability. It creates liability on you because you have to pay interest payment along with that principal amount. If you have taken any market loan, you are running public provident fund, national pension scheme, again they are again liabilities because you have released these bonds, you have released these PPF, national pension scheme, and everything, because you have to pay back that money after certain time. That means the liability is getting created. We put our money in PPF, we put our money in national pension scheme. It is a government schemes where government has to pay certain high degree of interest along with everything. So that means there is a liability on the government to pay back this money, right? So capital receipt sometimes create assets, sometimes capital receipt creates liabilities. Okay. Now capital expenditure, obviously when we get the money in the capital account, we spend in creation of assets, because these assets will be helping in generating the money. We create assets so that we are able, or to reduce the liability. That means you have raised the money, that means you have sold the PSU, you got the money, with that money you have paid your interest, you have paid your interest. So capital expenditure will either create asset or reduce your liability. It lead to asset creation like hospital, school, power plant. You will invest in share, you will invest in PSU, you will lend it to the state government. Whatever the money you are getting, you will lend it to the state government. You will be having good amount of cashes in your hand. So that is called capital expenditure that you are doing. Now we are coming into the one of the most important topic, like deficit. What are the deficits? Okay, so budget deficit is the major big word. Budget deficit means you have expenditure of 1000 crore. Budget deficit means you have an expenditure of 1000 crore, but your receipts are only 800 crore. Your receipts are only 800 crore. So you have a budget deficit of 200 crore. Okay, total expenditure minus total receipt. Then we talk about the revenue deficit. Revenue deficit only deals with the revenue side. It does not account for the capital side. So whenever we talk about the revenue deficit, that means government has raised 1000 crore in the revenue expenditure. Government has 2000 crore and government has received only 960 crore rupees as revenue. So again, revenue deficit will be 40 crore. Here we are not talking about in the budget deficit. We are talking about everything, capital also included, revenue also included. But then revenue deficit, we are only talking about the revenue receipt and only revenue expenditure. Then fiscal deficit is the most important thing that we are discussing. It is the total expenditure. So the budget deficit are of three types: revenue, fiscal, and primary. So fiscal deficit is the total expenditure minus total receipt except borrowing. You remove the borrowing part. Total expenditure minus total receipt that you are having. Total receipt means from where? From your revenue side, from your capital side. But in capital side, you cannot put the borrowing part. How much you have borrowed, that you cannot put over there. Okay, so that is called fiscal deficit. And then comes the primary deficit. Primary deficit is fiscal deficit minus interest payment. You know, we have to pay a lot of interest amount. So fiscal deficit, if the fiscal deficit is like 15 lakh crore rupees and interest payment is 10 lakh crore rupees because of the borrowing. So exactly the primary deficit will be 5 lakh crore. Okay, that will be the primary deficit. That means that is the actual deficit, because this money is because of the borrowing we have to pay. If we would have not borrowed this money, we would have only be fiscal deficit of 5 lakh crore, right? So these are the three important deficit that are called revenue deficit, fiscal deficit, and primary deficit. Effective revenue deficit has came into being during the time of N.K. Singh. N.K. Singh. Okay, he was the previous finance commission chairman. Okay, so he said that we have to find out the effective revenue deficit. Effective means you have a revenue deficit minus grant for creation of capital asset. That means you have spent some money to create capital asset, so you do not put that money under the deficit, because that has been used to create capital. It is not a expenditure, it is for creation of the capital. So that is called effective. That means actually what is the revenue deficit we are having. Like if we have a revenue deficit of 2 lakh crore rupees, but around 1 lakh crore rupees we have given especially for capital asset creation. So effective revenue deficit comes out to be rupees 1 lakh crore. 1 lakh crore only. Then comes monetized fiscal deficit. That means certain part of the fiscal deficit for which you have borrowed the money from RBI. If you said that 15 lakh crore is the money and you have borrowed some 3 lakh crore from RBI, so you will call it as 3 lakh crore is the monetized fiscal deficit because you have borrowed the money from the RBI. So 3 lakh crore you have borrowed, so you will call it as your monetized fiscal deficit is 3 lakh crore rupees. So these are the three important uh, deficits that are there that we have to discuss. Okay, now since we have deficit, obviously every time we have a deficit we have a good amount of our expenditures are more than our revenues, so we need financing for this deficit. So the main purpose is to obtain necessary resources for the government. We have to raise necessary resources for our government so that government is able to invest that money into particular sectors. So you can borrow the money, you can take the money from the public, you can do the taxation or non-tax sources, whatever it is. Okay. So sometimes you do deficit financing even in a situation like war or whenever depression is going on. Because whenever you do deficit financing, you try to create capitals in the society, you try to create capital infrastructure. Okay, capital formation leads to saving and proper mobilization of resources. But sometimes, uh, if we go by other country example, if we go by other country example, then if we go for Pakistan, they need money for day to day functioning. Even if they do any kind of deficit financing, it will not create any asset because that money will be used for day to day functioning of the government. That is the main issue. Deficit financing has to be used for creation of capitals or capital or creation of resources which can generate the money. So, what is the advantage of deficit financing? So, one can borrow from RBI and interest paid to the RBI comes back to the government in the form of profits. So, if you are taking the money from the RBI, so you will pay interest to the RBI. It will be given back to the government in the form of profits because RBI is a government agency, right? So, with deficit financing, you will be having resources earlier. You don't have to wait for any other thing. You will be having resources earlier and you can invest it earlier. So, development will take high paced. अब जैसे right now you need 5 lakh crore rupees, but you cannot wait for parliamentary approval because time is going on. So you go for deficit financing and you borrow from the market. So you will be raising the resources early and you will be investing these resources early and you will be able to create good assets. So this is one of the these are the 2 3 advantages of deficit finance. Sorry. Now, what is the issues with deficit financing? Because whenever you have sudden flow of money, when you have sudden flow of money, it lead to inflation because money supply increases, because RBI has to print more, it lead to inflation, it lead to erosion of money. Okay, so credit creation will be happening and it will reinforce the inflationary pressure. And if the inflation goes very high, if inflation goes very high, it will defeat the whole purpose of deficit financing, because we needed money for capital formation, for inflationary slowdown and everything. But if we are not able to create the proper infrastructure, proper capital formation, the whole process of deficit financing will be self defeating. Now, from where normally we do and source the deficit financing, from where we get the money, like here we can see here in 2019, and we can see here like orange color means market borrowing. Maximum we take from the market, we raise the money, the government raise maximum from a market for deficit financing. Then after that we have 19%, that is from the small saving instrument. Government releases small saving instrument, right? NSC and all these things. After that, government raise another amount of money from the external debts, from external Asian Development Bank. Then we have New Development Bank, then International Monetary Fund, even you get from the World Bank and all those things. Then State Provident Fund and other receipts and drawn down to the cash balances. Okay, so these are the important four areas from where you generally raise the money: market, small saving, external debt, and state provident fund. So you can see that the maximum share is the maximum market borrowing that you have to take for government fiscal deficit financing. Okay, so you can see here like in 2019 they take around 6.5 lakh crore rupees. Then 2020 9.3 lakhs crore rupees, 2021 18.5 lakh crore, then 2021 15.5. So the main reason is COVID-19 pandemic. Government has to borrow lot of money from the market, and for that only government has to pay heavy interest rate, heavy, because our industries are not running and government is not having revenues to spend. These 20 lakh crore which I told you, like government has released in 2020 in order to boost the economy, maximally came from the borrowing only. Now what happens after 2017? Before 2016 we were running like budget is being prepared on every 28th or 29th of February. But 2017, the budget presentation moved to 1st of February. 31st of January, economic survey is being released. Earlier, it was happened in last day of February. Railway budget is being merged with general budget, and earlier in the budget they used to put plan expenditure and non-plan expenditure. Now it has been totally done away. Earlier, before 2016, the non-plan expenditure was the maximum budget holding areas, because non-plan expenditure takes the bigger cut during that time. Okay, but after 2017 these three important changes has happened. Now a very important law in order to control the fiscal deficit was released in the form of Fiscal Responsibility and Budgetary Management Act in 2003. It's a very important rule, because otherwise government keeps on borrowing. So in order to make government to follow certain discipline, in order to reduce India's fiscal deficit so that a reckless borrowing cannot happen, and also to improve the overall situation in the economy, government came with a law, that is the statutory law, that is called statutory law. Government came with a statutory law, how the government is going to manage fund, how much borrowing can be done, for what percentage only of the GDP you can borrow. So this Fiscal Responsibility and Budgetary Management Act has been passed, FRBM as we call it. The main objective is to reduce fiscal deficit and also to reduce revenue deficits. Long term macroeconomic stability we need it, Proper coordination has to be there between fiscal, that means government policies, and monetary policy, RBI policy, because RBI keeps on checking the interest rate and government keeps on looking for the tax rates. And also fiscal operation transparencies is also very much needed during that time, because government is not under any control. So now with that fiscal responsibility and budgetary management act, government has been made responsible for following all these rules. So what are the major provision under the FRBM act? So let's discuss some of the major provision of the FRBM act. FRBM act target the fiscal deficit to 3% by 2028 and 2029. They said that by 2008 and 2009, you have to bring this fiscal deficit to 3%. That means yearly annual reduction of the fiscal deficit you have to do by 0.3% of the GDP per year by the central government, and also you have to reduce the revenue deficit by 0.5% of the GDP per year, and completely eliminating revenue deficit. That means you should not have a revenue deficit by 2008 and 2009. Okay, so appropriate measure government has to take in order to reduce fiscal deficit and revenue deficit, and by 2008 and 2009, revenue deficit has to be completely removed. That means your revenue should be that much, how much your revenue expenditures are. Then setting of annual target has already been done. So a special target, like you can, so government said that this is only for the normal situation. Normal situations you have to follow these rules. Okay, but if there is any situation that is coming, like all of a sudden some emergency has happened in the country, or there is any national security crisis that has happened, or calamity, or any exceptional ground, COVID-19 pandemic, right? COVID-19 pandemic that has happened, that is an exceptional ground. Because of the pandemic, you can bypass this law. That means it is not like that you have to remain under this law. You can do the borrowing only on certain specific ground, and then this rule will not be that much applicable. Okay. So this rule was amended in 2012, where three important statement has to be laid every year by the government. What are these three important these what are the three important statements? First is macroeconomic framework statement. Second one is medium term fiscal policy statement. And third one is fiscal policy strategy. What is your macroeconomic framework are there? What is your medium term fiscal policy? What exactly your medium term fiscal policy, and what is the strategy that you are following in order to achieve that? So along with your budget, you have to release these three statements, right? So this NK Singh, who was earlier the Finance Commission chairman, reviewed this FRBM Act and said that government can reach 3% of GDP fiscal deficit, 3% of FD fiscal deficit up to March 2020. But this month is a crisis month. This month is the crisis month because whole country stopped in this month. The target that we have to achieve has been thrown away, right? So here NK Singh has given that by 2020 you have to reach 3% of the fiscal deficit. By 2021 you have to reach 2.8, and by 2.5 by 2023. This was the hierarchy, but nobody knows that what was happened on March 2020. It is COVID-19 pandemic has happened, and all these number, instead of going down, has shoots up very high, because government has to do lot of borrowing government has to do, and this target has gone 3%, 4% of borrowing, 5%, 10% of the borrowing government has to do. Now government is saying that government has set the target that by 25-26 they are going to achieve 4.5% of the fiscal deficit target as per the Nirmala Sitaram for a finance minister in their 2023-24 budget, last year budget. Okay, so in 2023-2024 they said that around 11.8 lakh crore rupees of market borrowing has been done, and normally from the small saving and other sources are there, so gross market saving comes out to be 15.4 lakh crore. That means this much borrowing government has done. For that government has to pay interest also in that money. Okay, as per government said that by 2025-26 we will be achieving at least 4.5. For as per FRBM Act it has to be 3%, but because of this unforeseen circumstances that has happened because of the COVID-19, government said that by 25-26 they will be achieving 4.5%, is still very far away from that, right? So if you can see here in 2021-22 fiscal deficit was 6.7% COVID years. Then in the budget estimate it came to 6.4%, revised estimate it is 6.4%, slowly it is going down and it is 5.9%, and we are expecting that by 2025 and 2026 we are going to get 4.5%. This number is going to be reached to 4.5%. Then revenue deficit is 2.9%, primary deficit is 2.3%, and effective revenue deficit is 1.7%. We have already discussed all these terms and you can just correlate this data with that. Okay. Now we will be discussing some budget snapshot of 24-25 just for your understanding purposes. Here government has given a budget in which government budget estimate revenue, government is saying that we are expecting 30 lakh crore of revenue that we are going to get. Government said that under capital account we will be getting 17.64 lakh, so 17.64 lakh crore rupees that we are going to get. So total receipt we are going to get 47,65,760, and same only expenditure we will be doing. That means you will be going the total receipt, you are going total expenditure, right? And capital expenditure will be 14.96, that means for capital creation, capital and resource creation. Revenue deficit is 6 lakh 53,000 crore and effective revenue deficit is 2.67 lakh crore. Fiscal deficit is 16 lakh 16.85 crore and primary deficit is 4.95 crore rupees. So fiscal deficit we have to remove, and fiscal deficit is always compared as a percentage of GDP, of GDP. Okay, then you should know like which ministry has got the maximum allocation. Ministry of Defense has got 6.2 lakh crore rupees of the budget. Then Ministry of Road Transport Highway 2.78 lakh crore, Ministry of Labor got 2.55 lakh crore, Ministry of Food 2.13 crore, Ministry of Home Affairs 2.03 lakh crore, Ministry of Rural Development 1.7 lakh crore, Ministry of Chemical 1.6, Communication 1.37, Ministry of Agriculture 1.27. So this is the maximum allocation has been given to various ministries. Ministry of Defense has got the highest allocation. So how the rupees come and how the rupees go? If you think that your budget is of 1 rupee, if your budget is of 1 rupee, from where your money is coming? Maximum money of your is coming from borrowing and liabilities. You are raising around 28% of that money from borrowing. Then 19% from income taxes, goods and service taxes 18%, 18 paisas, corporation tax 17 paisa, and then customs, union excise. And so this whole counts to be 1 rupee. So maximum from borrowing, and next is income tax and GST. Then where the rupees go? Maximum rupees goes at which place? Your interest payment. Like if you have 1 rupee, rupee 1, so 20 paisa will go is only to interest payment because of the borrowing that you have done. Then state share, finance commission provide like how much money you have to share with the state. So 20 paisa additionally you have to do share with the state government. Then central sector scheme 16 paisa. defense 9, sorry, other defense 8, pension 4, subsidies, central sponsored scheme, like that. So maximum money goes to interest payment and state share. That means if we have 1 lakh crore rupees, so 40,000 crore rupees will go into two heads only, interest payment and states. Rest for the government schemes and everything. So this is how the breakup of the rupees happens. Okay. Now there are three important other type of budgets are there. Just we wanted to discuss these things for with you. So there are three important type of one is zero based budgeting. So some countries follow zero based budgeting also. So whenever we say that we are following a zero based budgeting, what does that mean? That means is कि every time you prepare a budget, every time you prepare a budget, you have to justify each and for like whatever expenditure. Like if I am doing expenditure in Manrega, if I'm doing expenditure in Manrega, so for 2023-24, I have taken the budget. For the next 2024 and 25, again I have to justify. Again, I have to justify from the zero base, and every function is analyzed for its need and for its cost. So budget is always based on need. It is not like that something is going on, so it keeps on going. No, every time it has to be judged. So once you have created a budget for 1 year, next year you have to create a new budget with all the justification coming again. All the justification coming again. Then come we have an outcome budget where progress of each ministry and department where respected ministry has done with budget outlay, like what is your development outcome and what is your government program, whether you have shown any outcome in that or not, whether that program has to be again funded or not. Okay, so they were first introduced in 2005. That is called outcome budget. And the last one is gender budgeting. Gender budgeting means if you have set up 1 lakh crore under the budget, how much money will be targeting special to the gender sensitive area like women's? You say if 10,000 crore are the schemes worth for women's. So we are incorporating a gender perspective in that. Like how much money will be utilized in gender perspective? Whether we are utilizing the money only for certain category of people, you have to tell how much revenue, how much expenditure will be spent on the special like women's or something, like how much money will be utilized for welfare of women's, empowerment of women's, or various other programs that are there for females. So that is called gender budgeting. Gender budgeting is a special focus on creating a gender neutral budget. That means both male and female gets due importance in that. So that is the concept of gender budgeting, and based on that, how much money is being spent on the woman, female, for their development, for their education, for their empowerment, for their higher education, for their healthcare. So that is comes under the gender budget. Okay. So this is all for today. I hope all of you have enjoyed the session. I will be coming out with next session. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Take care.